I missed every single one of my quarter three goals this year. And honestly, it's the best thing that could have happened to my business. Most people start to freak out when they start missing their goals or start to see that they're missing the targets that they'd set for themselves. And I'm not going to lie, I did a little bit too. But in the 17 years that I've been in the events industry and the thousands of events that I've done, I know that failure is really just a part of success. And when you have times like this in your business, it's going to make you an even stronger CEO. So if you're ready to figure out how you can turn a missed goal into a complete domination, stick around because I'm going to show you how to turn failure into your biggest advantage. I'm going to be super transparent with you because quarter three was a total whirlwind for me. We were scaling our coaching programs. We were onboarding so many new students. We had new coaches, we're rebranding. We had so much going on over at Blush. And we set some crazy financial targets that, let's just say, were a little ambitious. By mid-September, it was clear that none of these goals were going to be met. And I had a bit of a freak out moment. Now, the first thing that I want you to know is it's okay to miss goals. As much as it stinks and as difficult as it is for me to even make this episode, it was important for me to be transparent enough to all of you to say, hey, sometimes you have a down quarter. Sometimes you have a bad season. And here's the thing, it's totally normal. It's totally okay. But the biggest piece of it is how you respond to it. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to say, well, I hope next quarter is better? Or, yeah, I guess the economy isn't great and there aren't enough leads coming in. Goodness gracious, if I had a nickel for every thread post I saw that was like that. No, how you respond to it, what you're going to do about it, and how you're going to fix it so it doesn't continue is what turns that failure into success. So I'm going to break down exactly what we did as we walked through this terrible quarter three and how it's really setting us up to be so much more excited about what's happening here in quarter four. And I can tell you, I'm recording this mid-October and already our entire team is like so jazzed about what's happening in our businesses because what happened in quarter three really forced us to reflect on what was working and not working in our businesses. And now we are so much better set up for quarter four and going into 2025. The first most important thing that you can possibly do is reflect on what happened. Why did you miss these goals, right? I had written all of our goals on the whiteboard that's in our we have like a hallway into our office that kind of goes from the living part of our house, right? Like the main part of our house into our office. So every day, every time we would literally get up and go to the kitchen or to the living room, we would see our goals on this whiteboard. And, at the beginning of July, it was so exciting because it was like, oh my gosh, yes, we're going to crush these goals. It's going to be such a good quarter, right? And then as the months would tick by, I would look at them and start to feel sick. I'm not going to lie. They kind of crushed me to some degree. By mid-August, I was completely spiraling because I was like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? And at first, what I did was I kind of wallowed in it and I was like, we're not good enough. Like nothing we're doing is the right thing, right? Of course, that's what we all do. And once I started to really think, okay, Brandee, be smart about this. You've been in business for 17 years. You know how to do this. We've walked through seasons like this before. What do we need to do when we start to see that our goals are going to be missed, right? So I constantly am tracking data in our business. It's not like we got to the last week of September and I was like, oh my gosh, we missed our goals. No, I was literally tracking it. So I knew we're way far off pace for these goals. So what I want you to do when you're looking at your goals and you're starting to think, okay, are we going to hit this? And you start to realize that maybe you're not. I want you to really think about what is causing it. Really take this time to reflect. Is it a lack of focus? Is it a lack of planning? Possibly not planning well to get those projects finished or to hit those goals by the timeframe that you set up. One that I cared very much about was our revenue goal. And it was apparent to me literally 4 to 5 weeks in that there was no way we were going to hit this goal. And it was crushing to me, mainly because on both companies, we were drastically missing sales goals. So both in Blush and in Wedding Pro CEO, we were missing our sales goals. And for a while, I really was thinking it's just a down month. I always tell my students, do not base a missed goal on 1 month, right? So if you miss 1 month, it's not that big a deal. You can have a down month. That's not huge. It's when you have 2 months in a row, maybe 3 months in a row that you really need to start looking at it and going, okay, what's happening? Like we need to fix something. And so I'll kind of walk through that with the blush side. So what we started to realize was that since 2019, we've always had a dedicated salesperson in our business for blush. And this year, for various reasons, we decided to bring it back in-house. And it did not work. That's kind of the beginning and the end of it, right? And I work through this with my students a lot. When you get to the place where you're really scaling in your business, having a dedicated salesperson whose complete focus is on those follow-ups, is on making sure that they get somebody to a consultation, is really nurturing those leads constantly. That's really, really important. And so what happened in our business is we brought sales back in-house earlier this year, and we had, some up months and some down months. There wasn't anything too crazy. But starting in June, I started to realize like we're not hitting our sales goals every single month. And the reason for that has nothing to do at all with the quality of salesperson who was handling our sales. It wasn't her at all. It was the fact that she wasn't focused completely on sales. She had weddings, she had other things going on in our business that I'd tasked her with. And so the challenge became that sales was something she did when she had time, right? The follow-ups weren't strong. She knew that. And the reason that we were able to tell that is because we track the data so strongly. And this is something I work with my students on all the time. The only way that we can find out what's wrong with your sales funnel is when we track the data. You have to track the data. So we were able to see that our leads had not dropped any month. So month over month, we were getting the same number of leads. They were quality leads. They were at great venues. So the lead quality and quantity hadn't changed, but our conversion had changed. And so immediately we were able to see that her follow-up really just wasn't as strong as when we had a dedicated salesperson. So we were able to tell that by really mid-August, because we'd missed June, we'd missed July, and we were on track to miss August. By the third or fourth week of August, we were like, something has to change drastically because we've got to get sales back on track for blush. And so what we did was we worked together in September to really revise what that process looked like. We wanted to make sure that every single lead was constantly followed up on as if we had outsourced sales. And so we started this right away. I worked with her on it. We did it together. And so we started to see an uptick in sales immediately, like immediately. And so what that told us was, yes, the problem has been in our follow-up and our consistency of follow-up, right? And so we immediately decided we are going to outsource sales again. Like that was something we tried. It did not work. This was not good for us. And so we decided to outsource sales starting on October 1st. Okay. So we were like, let's finish out quarter 3. Let's, as a team, let's come together and like knock this out and really try to get our sales back up. And then we're going to turn it back over to an outside salesperson starting on October 1st. You guys, what was really fun about this is that we were like, how cool would it be if we could book enough in September to make up for the entire third quarter, right? Because we were down in both July and August. So we were on every lead. I mean, we were like pushing, texting, getting them onto a consult. We were closing hard. Like we were beasts. We were following up post-contract. We were on it. And our team Slack those last 2 days of September, as we were pushing for these last couple of sales to close, it was actually really fun because I'm obsessed with sales. So for me, it was like, yes, I want this to like, let's do it. I have to tell you, I am so proud of our team because we did make up for the entire third quarter in September. So we were able to get us back to, I call it zero, like back to flat by the time we turned sales over to this outside salesperson. That was really important to me because I wanted this person to be set up for success. I didn't want her to try to have to pull us out of a deficit. So us being able to sell enough to make up for July and August really put us just back in a place where I was like, okay, now slay for quarter 4, right? And honestly, you guys, if we wouldn't have had such drastic misses in July and August, I don't think I would have outsourced sales for quarter 4. And quarter 4 is really the most important quarter 4 and quarter 1 in the wedding industry because it's engagement season, right? And so having that dedicated, strong salesperson that's there to follow up and close and be consistent was massively important for us. But had we not had those 2 huge missed months, we would not, I promise you, it would not have been on my radar to outsource outsource sales yet. I would have kept letting it go and been like, it's okay. Like, we'll keep going through. It's fine. We're close at least. And so having these two big misses was a real reflection for me to say, yeah, our focus was off big time. That was how we were able to get back on track. And already, like having that huge September, we've already started closing sales for October. Like we're going to blow October's goal out of the water. And now I have aces in their places, right? I've allowed this person that was on my team to really focus on what she was hired for, which is not sales. And I now have a dedicated salesperson to really focus on making sure that that first inquiry that a client comes in with, it feels so important. Like they feel so important. They feel like a VIP. They understand the level of service that they're going to get from our company right from that first interaction with our company and the follow through, right? So this was huge. And this is what I want you to do. If you've had a missed sales goal this year, you guys have heard me preach it all year long. It's not the economy, it's your sales. It's not the economy, it's your marketing. It's not the economy, it's your follow up. It is not the economy. There are hundreds and hundreds of pros that I work with that are having banner killer years. And it's because they're leaning strongly into their marketing and their sales. So I really want you to look at your sales funnel and I want you to say, what is wrong with my sales funnel? Do I need more leads or do I need to learn how to better convert those leads? And we work so much with our students inside our programs on this. So if you're like, I need help with this, like I just need somebody to look at my sales funnel, look at my marketing and tell me what to do, what the next steps are. That's what we do inside our programs. We audit all of that for you before you start the program. So I'd love to chat more with you about how you can join the accelerator and jump in and really crank up Q4. Lesson number 2 is failure is data. And what I mean by this, and I'm sure some of you listening are like, yes, I've totally done this, is you've made up arbitrary goals. I was 100% guilty of this quarter, which is so unlike me. I'm typically very strategic in my goal setting. I think we just went into Q3 with these like starry-eyed, like this is going to be the best quarter ever. And so I just kept writing goals on our whiteboard. And I tell my students all the time, never have more than 3 goals that you're working on. Like, what are the 3 things that are going to really move the needle in your business? And let's work towards those. And here I am with like 7 goals. Several of them were completely arbitrary and made no sense. So 2 of those are that I wanted to hit 10,000 followers on Instagram and I wanted to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And to be honest, neither one of these things move the needle in our business. Yes, does a larger following create some sort of social proof? Yeah, I posted about that on Threads when we did hit 10,000 followers, which wasn't in Q3. It was much later. And we did actually finally hit 10,000 followers. But I posted about it on Threads and I was saying, yes, it's 100% a vanity metric and it really doesn't move the needle at all. It is social proof. I think that there is some validity to having a larger following, that people think you're more valid, that you're a better coach because you have a bigger following. And so there is some validity to having a larger following. But at the end of the day, how many followers we have is not determining how many wedding pros that we're able to impact. It's just not. The bulk of the people who join our programs come either from a referral from someone else that's already in our programs, or they come from here on the podcast. When you get to listen to how I teach on a weekly basis, every single week, you either watch us on YouTube or you listen to us on the podcast, you get to hear how I teach. And if you learn something from it, a lot of times we have pros that are like, I listened to this episode. I love how you teach. It moved the needle in my business. I want to join your program. And that's because if you are like, well, if she's going to teach me this for free, how much is she going to impact my business if I get into her programs? So really this follower count, the subscriber count, it really isn't what's moving the needle. It's more, am I creating episodes? Am I creating content every single week that is impacting the people who are seeing it? And that is a needle mover in our business. Me knowing what you want to hear, being engaged with my audience, being engaged with my students, knowing where the pain points are and how I can best make episodes that are going to impact you and the growth of your business. That's a much bigger needle mover and where my focus needs to be instead of these vanity metrics. And too often we make up arbitrary goals. I'm sure if you think about some of the goals that you've set for yourself, maybe this year even, you're like, yeah, some of them make no sense. Like, it'd be great if I hit it, but in reality, does it move the needle? And is it taking your focus away from things that actually are going to move the needle. So often we just create these silly goals. They make no sense whatsoever. They're not actually going to impact our business in any way. And we're putting attention towards meeting them. I can tell you that in quarter three, I put a tremendous amount of attention into trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We still haven't hit it. Honestly, when I think about it, the only thing it did for me by having that goal up there was to stress me out because I was like, we're not going to hit it. 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 Who cares, right? Like I'm still making really impactful episodes. It's impacting the people that are watching these videos, and I don't necessarily need to have that 1,000 subscribers. It's not moving the needle, and it took attention away from some of the other goals that we were trying to meet in our business. So what I want you to do is I really want you to look at your goals, and I want you to see, are there any goals that really don't move the needle for you at all that you have on your whiteboard or that you have on your goal sheet that you're like, why do I even care about this goal? Like, how will it impact my business? How will it add to my revenue? How will it help me to serve more couples? If it doesn't, take it off. It's just an arbitrary goal. It makes no sense. Lesson number 3 is missing goals highlights priorities. This one is honestly one of the most difficult for me, and it was the most difficult for me to kind of come to a realization with as well when I was reflecting on why we missed our goals this year. And what I mean by it highlights priorities is that what I started to notice is that I was spending an obscene amount of time on the back end of our businesses instead of showing up in our marketing, instead of being front facing, instead of really showing up daily on like TikTok, on Instagram, on stories. I really got myself bogged down with a lot of the back end of our business. I was working in funnels. I was working in emails. I was working in sales processes that don't necessarily need my attention. And the reason for this is because I personally was doing too much. We had slimmed our team down really quite a bit on both the blush side and the Wedding Pro CEO side this year. I don't know that it was necessarily on purpose. It kind of happened over time. And what I did is what I see so many of our students do, and that I tell them, do not do this. Do not do this. You're going to get yourself into a pickle. I'm telling you what that is that I took all of those tasks on. And the reason I did that was because at the time where we would lose someone, I was like, well, I can do that. Right? I can do that. Or on the blush side, I was like, well, Sophia can do that, our CEO, right? Like she can take it on. It's fine. Like we don't need to hire out for that position right now. And that's actually how we ended up missing all of our goals. I would say that 90% of the reason that we missed our goals is because of this lesson right here, is that I was doing too much and I had Sophia doing too much. And so what happened was I started to realize like I haven't posted to Instagram in 4 days, which is so unlike me. You guys, like I post twice a day on Instagram, right? But the reason for that was because I was doing all of my own marketing, all of it since March. And it worked for a while because I kind of needed to know, like, what is it that I want to post? What is it that I want to say? We wanted to have stronger messaging. We wanted to have bolder messaging. And so I took it back because I was like, I really want to lean into like, who am I as a coach? Who is Wedding Pro CEO as a program, as an educational platform? Like, who are we and what do we want to stand for? And so it was helpful for me to take it back for a period. But what I was finding is here we are going into the busiest time of the year, and I didn't have any help. Zero help on the back end of Wedding Pro CEO. Here I am. I'm doing all my own marketing, all my own funnels, all my own emails, all of the things, all my own sales. And none of it was being done well. In addition to that, what I also noticed was happening is that I was literally getting up and hitting my desk first thing in the morning, which I never do. And I was working like 12-hour days. Again, completely what I preach I don't want to do again, right? But here it is. I found myself in this spiral. So not only were none of my goals being met because I wasn't really focused on any of them, my head was in a million spaces, but I also wasn't personally doing well. Like I felt guilty as a mom. I wasn't working out. I hate working out, but I wasn't taking care of my body. So I felt gross. I felt just like a failure. I say that very vulnerably. It is not easy for me to be vulnerable. at all. I hate it. Mainly because most of the time, if I have a problem, I do exactly what I'm telling you to do right now and what I did, and I go fix it. So I don't wallow in it for long, right? I go fix it. And so I don't tend to be super vulnerable. But as I reflected on what happened to us in quarter three, I was like, so many of our listeners and our students go through this. And I want them to know that I do too sometimes, right? And so it's important to me for you to hear me say that I've had bad quarters too, just recently, right? And so what happened with me is that I shared with my husband what was going on inside my head. I was like, it's not good. Like, I'm not good mentally because so much of what I'm doing is failing and I don't know how to get out of it. Like, it felt like a downward spiral. So his suggestion, first and foremost, was for me to find something to do physically that I could get out of the house. Like, you need to get out of the house because we work in our house, right? So you work all the time anyway, and you need to get out and you need to be physical. Like, you need to feel better about your body. So I was like, okay, I hear you. Yes, you're right. So the first thing I did was I went and I started Pilates, which I'd never done before, but there's a Pilates studio literally across the street from my house. So I was like, I have no excuse not to go. And so that's been awesome. I've been doing that for like 6 weeks and I love it so much. I look forward to it every single time I go. I'm like, I cannot wait. It also forces me to stop working at the end of the day because I schedule a class and I'm like, okay, time to go. And then I come back refreshed and excited to like hang out with my kids, hang out with my family. The second thing that we did was we took a really deep assessment of our team. And I started to realize we're not hitting our sales goals because we don't have a strong enough sales process, which I'd already told you we did with Blush. Well, we also did that with Wedding Pro CEO because what was happening is we get so many applications for our program. And I want to be able to talk to every single person that applies to our programs. It's not physically possible for me to do that. And we want to make sure that when someone applies for any of our programs, that they really feel that same experience they're going to get inside the program, which is that someone cares about their business, that somebody really wants to understand what are their pain points and which one of our programs is going to be a really good fit to help move the needle quickly and then to get them onboarded really, really well to start working with our team right away. And so that was something that we'd never done inside of Wedding Pro CEO, but I started to realize this is massively important because it's so, so imperative to me that our students feel that love from the second that they inquire with our programs. And so we outsourced sales on Wedding Pro CEO side. I also realized that I need help with the marketing. I love showing up. I want to be live. I want to be able to show up here on the podcast. I want to show up on TikTok and on YouTube, but creating carousel posts and creating story slides, creating graphic posts, like that's not my jam, you guys. Like, I hate it. Actually, I don't like creating that kind of content. And so it would drain my battery and then I just wouldn't do it. And so we hired a marketing company. Now, what was interesting about this is I was already buried in work, as you can kind of tell. We weren't making our goals, right? So here I am like, okay, I'm going to take time to research companies to do all of these things for us. That I didn't have time to do, but I had to make the time. And then two, we didn't really have the financial resources to hire all of these people either. But what we knew was that it wasn't an expense, it was an investment. And so what we knew was that by investing in help for Blush and for Wedding Pro CEO and having really aces in their places. Like, I don't even know any other way to describe it, but just to have really amazing people that are so good at what they do in each of the buckets for our businesses, which I preach to my students all the time. I know better, right? We have turned this ship around so fast, you guys. We started working on some of these fixes really at the beginning of September because it only took me 6 weeks of quarter three to realize like the ship is going to rise. Like, we're going down with it. Like, I'm on the Titanic here, right? So I didn't need to wait until the end of quarter three to realize like this was not going to be a good quarter. So we had already started to fix things starting in the beginning of September. So here we are 2 weeks into October. So it's been about 6 weeks since we started to right this ship. I can't even tell you guys how amazing it has been. Like, to say that we're going to be able to slay quarter four is an understatement because we have the most amazing aces in their places. I'm back to being in a position where I can oversee and guide and coach our team members on both sides of the business instead of being in it and doing all of the things. What I want you, CEO, to really look at your business is if your sales are down, if you're missing goals, if you're overwhelmed, if you're in a downward spiral like I was, where you're just like, I work all the time every single day and nothing feels like it's working, I want you to really evaluate your team. I want you to see where your priorities are. I want you to see what you're doing every day that is not moving the needle for your business. I say this because it's likely that you need to hire a team member, but sometimes it's just that you're working on things that don't matter. Like they do not matter in your business. There's so often we do busy work every day and it's like, why do I do this? Like, why do I do this every day? You as the CEO should only be focused on the top 20% of things that move the needle in your business. Marketing, networking, growth, sales opportunities. Like those are the things that you should be working on in your business. Everything else should not be on your plate. Your hand shouldn't touch it. Yes. Will you mentor the people who are doing it? Yes. Will you actually be doing it? No. Learn from me. I let myself get back into this place where I know I shouldn't be doing all of the things myself. And the only thing it did for us was drive us into a deficit. That is the honest to God truth. And so I see this all the time when I work with students. I see it literally all the time. Somebody will come into the program and say, I'm not booking right now. It's crazy. I feel psychotic. Like all I do is work and I'm not getting sales. And I'm like, no kidding, because all you're doing is all this other stuff. When was the last time you followed up with a lead? And the truth is you're not, because you're not doing it well. You're doing all these things, but you're not doing any of them well. And so your business is suffering because of it, because you don't know your place as the CEO of your business. And listen, I fell into that trap just this year and I teach on it. I know better. It's an easy thing to let happen in your business. What I want you to do is I want you to reflect and I want you to make changes because of it. Do not let yourself stay in it. Make changes. It's so, so important. Reflect on what happened, why you missed your goals. Look at what's causing you to miss those goals. Let those priorities come out. Where are you spending your time? And let's fix it. And if hiring is something that you need to do inside your business, but you're like, I don't even know where I would begin in starting to hire people, I feel so overwhelmed as it is, I want you to check out this video right here, because I break down exactly how to know what you're hiring for, what you need inside your business, and how to post that position so you can get a perfect ace to join your team. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and I'll see you on the next video.